If I told you that I had completed a task over 3,500 times, would you pay attention to what I have to say? The fact is that we've ran over 3,500 successful LinkedIn outreach programs and helped our clients acquire over 63 million in new business just from LinkedIn and cold email. And yet people still sometimes don't pay attention to this straightforward path to high quality new clients consistently. My name is Ken Wells. For the past 19 years, I've been working with small and mid-sized B2B service businesses. I started before the internet cold calling. Then since 2009, been using LinkedIn and email. And these 3,500 plus campaigns that I'm referring to are in over 65 different industries, and again, hundreds of niches within those industries. So in this video, I'm going to show you a system and strategy that we deploy to consistently get high quality clients from LinkedIn. Look, the reality is if you sell a high ticket service of any kind, B2B, you have a consultative sales process. You have to have a conversation with another human being in order to get a deal closed. You're not going to sell it off of a web page. And here's the other thing that we all have to face is that everybody's targeting the same individuals. In those 3,500 plus campaigns that I referred to, literally every single company, when we ask them, who do you want us to target? They always want us to target either direct decision makers or department heads within an account if it's a larger organization. Everybody's targeting these people, and there's a limited amount of mental bandwidth that everybody is fighting for. Okay, so it's harder and harder to get messages delivered, seen, responded to. So in this video, I'm going to share some really key factors that we've learned that you can deploy to go out and use and start getting high quality clients from LinkedIn. It's one of the most underrated platforms. It's commonly misunderstood. There's over 310 million active monthly users currently, and it's a virtual gold mine if you know how to use it correctly. So let's go ahead and dive into some of this here, which is first we need to talk about is targeting and list building, okay? Because the reality is if you get the targeting wrong, that's a problem for a few different reasons. One, doesn't matter how good the message is if it goes to the wrong people. And two, you have to understand the value of the actions on LinkedIn are becoming more valuable. And here's what I mean by that, okay? Like I said, I've been using LinkedIn since 2009. You used to be able to send 100 connection requests a day. Now it's down to, somewhere around 20. And LinkedIn and these different platforms, they constantly do things and put restrictions in place to protect their user experience because they don't want their users to just get tons of spam. And more people are using these platforms to try to generate business for all kinds of different services. So the value of each action has become greater, meaning every page view, every connection request, every invite has become very valuable and it cannot be wasted. So if you're familiar with the game musical chairs, right? So the music's playing, there's a limited number of chairs, the music stops, everyone's got to find a seat. If you don't find a seat, you're out. You can look at that same sort of analogy when you're building your list. So for every wrong prospect that you put in one of your valuable chairs, it takes up a valuable spot for what could be a correct prospect. So building a clean list is literally priority number one. But here's the big problem. If you're creating a small list, say 25 prospects, it's relatively easy to do that. But the reality is you actually need much larger volumes of targeted prospects in order to make your outreach work because of timing. There's a certain percentage of your market where the timing is going to be right. You want to find those people and get deals closed quickly. There's going to be another percentage which are like not immediate sales, but maybe they're sales in the near future and you want to capitalize on those. And then there's like longer term ones where they're like, hey, this is a good, I'm interested in this, but follow up with me in 3 months. You want to be able to capture all of those and have systems in place to convert as many of those as possible. But you need sufficient volume to find that low-hanging fruit right now, and that presents a real problem because building clean lists on LinkedIn or in general when you're doing outbound outreach is actually incredibly difficult and time consuming. You have to know what you're doing and it takes a long time to do. Let me give you an example. Also kind of dissolve a false belief in the process. So some people when we talk to them, they say, oh, well, I have Sales Navigator. So that's the end all be all. Look, to even have a chance of creating a clean list on LinkedIn, you need Sales Navigator. Like their normal search functionality is pretty terrible. But there's a dirty other little secret that Sales Navigator is incredibly imperfect. If you don't believe me, go ahead right now and just do this experiment. Go into Sales Navigator, choose industry, computer software, 11 to 200 employees, CEO, and choose a state or use the entire US, whatever you want. And when you click search, what you're gonna find is that there is a lot of noise on that list. Noise being false targets, people that don't fit the criteria that you entered. You'll see things on there like, the industry is not even software. It's like information technology. Sometimes it's just way off, like entertainment. It's just crazy how imperfect their tool is. But if you know how to use it right, you can get really high quality lists. It's just you need to know what you're doing, and it's extremely time consuming. So when we take on a client, what we do is we have to go through a process continually using not only the search functionality within the search box, like Boolean search terms, but also different combinations of the criteria depending on the campaign in order to reduce that noise down to next to nothing. And then we have a proprietary system that once we upload that list, which it usually takes about an hour to an hour and a half if you know what you're doing to create the front end list, there's still going to be noise on that list because you can't, if you're creating larger volumes of targeted prospects, you can't manually check every single profile. It's not even feasible. So we have a tool that allows us to, first off, on the front end, we reduce the noise, then we upload the list, and then we can turn off any noise that gets through. But the key takeaway here is you have to have a super clean list in order to even play the game. Once you have a quality list built, you need to put together a compelling offer and find a unique angle. So when you're putting together your offer, you need to think in terms of price, quality, and service. So service is like speed of delivery, customer support. The quality can be the quality of the service you deliver. Price, total cost of ownership, payment options available. And the thing to understand is that it's very rare that you'll find a company that has the lowest price, the best service, and the best quality of service. It's rare because obviously if you're providing a better quality service, it costs more to do so. You pay for more expensive tools, you hire more expensive team members who are more talented, and so on and so forth. So you need to figure out where you fit in the marketplace when you're putting together your offer, because there's a market for all of those. There's a market for the low cost providers. There's a market for the higher quality providers who cost more money, but you need to figure out where you fit, and then you need to find a unique angle. So I'll give you one example, like us, for instance, like how are we different from a lot of our competitors? Well, one of the main differentiators is that for all of our critical marketing functions, we do everything onshore. So we have onshore copywriters, onshore marketing people who create and build lists and campaign architecture. And this is different because if you go read reviews of a lot of our competitors, basically what you find is they try to do everything offshore. So you'll see reviews that'll say things like, oh, well, we were talking to a really a really good salesperson in the US, and then when we actually got onboarded, we were dealing with someone offshore, and the copy they wrote, was full of grammar mistakes and things like that, so on and so forth. So you need to figure out where you fit in the marketplace, and then you need to find a unique angle. There's always some unique little angle that makes things really pop, and I'll give you a couple of examples. Because typically what we see, and I think I mentioned we've onboarded over 350 clients, so we've seen hundreds of these onboarding forms, is we'll see things like on the onboarding form, when it's asking them questions like, how are you different? Tell us about your offer, these different questions. Most companies provide very superficial responses. So they'll say things like, well, we're just better. We just provide better service, without getting into the specifics of how specifically they're different. So to give you a couple specific examples, we're working with a company that does hybrid and virtual events. When we were first onboarding them, we're like, how are you different? Tell us about your service, and so on and so forth. They just kept going back to sort of like the standard answers, like, well, we just provide a better solution. We're like, okay, what does that mean? And they had a lot of trouble sort of articulating, even though they'd been in business for 18 years, articulating what was unique about their offer, right? And this is very common because people oftentimes can't see the forest through the trees when they're in their business. And there's usually gold in them their hills, meaning once we can talk with them and we can actually help them uncover the unique angle. So in this case, what I said was, all right, so you want us to target directors of events at associations. So I'm going to pretend that I'm one of your target prospects, and I want to put on a killer hybrid event. What do I have to do in order to achieve that? The client was like, well, the first thing you need to do is you need to hire a company to do strategy and planning. And I said, okay. And they said, the next thing you need to do is you need to hire a production company. I said, okay. And then they said, the next thing you need to do is you need to hire a third company for the platform that you're going to use. And then finally, you need to coordinate everything with the venue staff. So I said, okay, so you're telling me that I would have to literally coordinate with 4 different people in order to pull this off, right? In their space, what their clients ultimately want are as flawless of events as possible with the highest quality, with the lowest amount of stress. Because think about it, if you have an event coming up, there's a deadline, you're trying to coordinate with all these different people, all these moving parts to make things like work together seamlessly, and it is super stressful, and there's a lot of opportunities for error when you're dealing with 4 different entities. And so I said, wait, so just so I can understand this, you're telling me that if I work with you guys, you literally, I would just work with one person and you handle the strategy and planning, the production, the platform, and you coordinate with the venue staff? And they're like, yes. And they started laughing because it was like they knew that, but they'd never really thought about it that way. And then I said, and you're telling me that you can do this for up to 40% less because you do everything in-house, you've built your own solution? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, there's the angle right there. I'll give you another example, CPA firm. We work with a lot of CPA firms. During tax, the 2 main tax seasons, it's really easy to generate leads because a lot of people are scrambling to get things done. And so they get super busy around those times of year, but then they get super dead the rest of the year. And so what they look for is ways to continue to bring in new clients during those dead times of year. And it's not the sexiest offer out there because a lot of times companies like small businesses, for example, they don't really want to talk about taxes when it's not tax season, or tax planning or tax savings. They don't want to hear about that stuff unless it's like crunch time. So, and the other thing that's tough about those campaigns is it's really hard for prospects to differentiate one CPA firm from another. And there's tons of CPA firms. Like, well, why would I go with you guys rather than XYZ company, right? So you have to find we had to find a unique angle in order to get attention and generate opportunities and ultimately sales from the campaign. But it all starts with grabbing attention. When I was talking with the owner of this CPA firm, he had been in business a long time. Is there anything, because he made a claim, he said more than 80% of the small businesses he talks to are spending more than they should on taxes, even when they have a CPA already. And I was like, all right, well, that's kind of interesting. And so I'm like, is there anything counterintuitive or, something that commonly comes up again and again when you're talking to these companies that are spending too much on taxes and they already have a CPA? And he goes, well, yeah, there's a 16th Amendment tax loophole that most CPAs miss. So I'm like, thanks for writing my copy for me, right? And basically, with the rest of his message in our call to action, we added that in, which is hey, and on a call, we'll share with you a 16th Amendment tax loophole that most CPAs miss that's costing you, whatever it was, 30-40% more than they should be spending on average or whatever the thing was. And the campaign crushed. You have to find where you fit in the marketplace, build an offer that's compelling, which we could do an entirely separate video just on offer creation. But first, just to kind of get a start, is figuring out where you fit in the marketplace. And then you need to find some unique angle that you can enter to the marketplace with your messaging so that you can actually get a response from your market. The final point is don't try to step over a dollar to pick up a dime, right? I see this time and time again, and I get it. Companies, they want to try to save on costs as much as possible. So do we, so does everybody. They want to get as much for as little as possible. Totally get that. But the reality is that marketing is hard, and it is not an area that you want to skimp on, right? There are other areas where you can find cost efficiencies, and marketing should not be the first one that you look at. And what I mean by that specifically is and you may need to go try this yourself first, and then once you learn the lesson, then you can come to the conclusion that I'm trying to help you understand now and help you avoid those mistakes. But when you try to go cheap on marketing, we hear some companies, they're like, how have you traditionally got customers for your business? They're like, oh, through referrals. So they've never actually paid anyone to help market for them. They're like, yeah, well, we really want to try. We're going to go on Upwork and we're going to get a VA to do our marketing for us. And most of the time, we don't even try to talk them out of it. We're just like, all right, why don't you do this? Why don't you go do that? And then we'll revisit this in 30 days and just kind of see where we're at. And then like literally like 10 times out of 10 in 30 days, like the problem is still there and they've just wasted their time and money over that past month. Sometimes they'll do that over and over again through low cost providers, and they just try to go cheap on the marketing side of things. But again, you have to just fully come to terms with the fact that marketing is difficult. Like the same people that you want to target, those high quality accounts, are the same people, those decision makers, those department heads, those are the same people that everybody's targeting. So you can't just roll out some crappy message and get the job done. Like you need to know what the heck you're doing, and LinkedIn constantly changes all the time. Here's my advice to you is, number one, you really got two options, okay? You can learn how to do this stuff yourself. You can spend hundreds of hours on YouTube and coaching programs, which you're gonna have to pay for, courses, just to learn what you're doing. And then you actually have to implement that consistently and stay current with the ever-changing landscape on LinkedIn. And even if you do all of those things, you still have to manage that process on an ongoing basis to keep your pipeline full and keep new opportunities and sales coming in the door. Is that what you got in business to do to become a professional marketer? You're probably in one of two situations. Either you got more money than you have time, or you got more time than you have money. If you have more time than you have money, then yeah, like try to figure it out yourself. Try to go the route of, see if you can find a low quality solution or a low cost solution to your problem. And if you get it done, you get it done. But you really want to get to the point where you have enough money to invest in a quality firm that can help you get those results. So if you'd like to work with us, or you'd like to have a brief discussion to see if we can help you solve the problem, help you bring in new clients immediately, whether you're targeting self-employed realtors or executives at Fortune 10 companies like many of our clients are having us do, targeting enterprise level organizations, you can find contact information in one of the links in the description. Other than that, hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you next time.